Lowe's knows how to help make your home holiday ready for less. Get Select Style Selections vinyl flooring for just $1.99 per square foot and have it installed before the festivities begin. Our team can help you every step of the way. See a Lowe's Red Vest associate or visit Lowe's.com/holiday install to get started. Lowe's, we help, you save. Basic install only. Date restrictions apply. Subject to availability. Installed by independent contractors. See associate for details. Contiguous U.S. only.
All across America and around the world, this is Veterans Radio. This is Veterans Radio.
Good day. I'm Jim Fausone. I'm the officer of the deck today here on Veterans Radio, and thanks for joining us. We've got some interesting stories for you. We always want to remind you can find more about Veterans Radio at its Facebook site or at the web, veteransradio.org, where we're on the web 24/7. You can find a lot of our podcasts there as well. We post new ones every Tuesday, so you can get a new story, a new interview, something you didn't know before by going to veteransradio.org. And before we get started, we want to thank our sponsors. First up, we want to thank National Veteran Business Development Council, nvbdc.org. It was established to certify both service-disabled and veteran-owned businesses. You'll find out how they can help your business by going to nvbdc.org. We want to thank Legal Help for Veterans. Legal Help for Veterans fights for veterans' disability rights all across the nation. You can reach them at 800-693-4800 or on the web at legalhelpforveterans.com. And finally, PuroClean. PuroClean is the paramedics of property damage. It provides water damage remediation, flood water removal, fire and smoke damage remediation, mold removal, biohazard cleanup. It also has a focus on veteran franchisees. You can learn more about them by going to puroclean.com. We want to give you a little advance notice. We're going to have a Veterans Radio event on Sunday, September 28th, 2025. Radio on the River. We're doing a new location on Freedom River in Livingston County, Michigan. We want you to save the date. We're going to have veteran storytelling and guest speakers. We'll have raffle items, great local musicians and food. Also, uniquely, there's going to be an opportunity to fly in a UH-1 Huey from the Michigan Flight Museum. And maybe you can also win a free ride that way. But plan on supporting Veterans Radio either by buying tickets or sponsoring Radio on the River. Contact us at Dale@veteransradio.org or Jim@veteransradio.org to get more information, but we'd love to have you come out, and we'd certainly love to have you sponsor. We just want to remind you that Veterans Radio podcasts are available on all your favorite streaming platforms, including RSS.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Rees Across America Radio. So wherever you are, you can find us, whether it's on your mobile phone or your computer or your laptop, your tablet. But listen in to Veterans Radio Podcasts. We post something new every week, and you're going to find it informative. We want to welcome to Veterans Radio today Navy veteran Jonathan Page. Jonathan Page is a PhD, but don't hold that against him. We're going to talk about all things shipbuilding. John, welcome to Veterans Radio.
Morning, thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'm glad you found me, and always happy to talk about the Navy. As you know, you can take a man out of the Navy, but you can't take the Navy out of the man.
Well, and you're sitting now in the Midwest, and I know I often look back and say, I wish I was on the water again. I wish I was on the ocean. This storm had looked great on the ocean. So, yeah, I can relate that you can't take the sea out of the Navy man here. But let me set this up a little bit. So you are a native of Canton, Michigan, which is between Detroit and Ann Arbor. You went off to the Naval Academy. We're going to talk about that a little bit. You did active duty in the Navy, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then you went on to a couple of interesting assignments as the Deputy Ship Design Manager for NAVSEA, Future Ship Requirements Officer for the Office of the Chief of Naval Operations for about 5 years. And now it's been a couple of years that you are a professor at the University of Michigan Naval Architecture and Marine Engineering School. So some very well-earned credentials in the field of ship planning and building. And that's a little bit what we want to talk about, because we saw you quoted in an article talking about how the Navy wants more young people to pursue careers in shipbuilding. So we'll get to that, and we're going to get to the current projects he's working on. But Jonathan, how did a nice kid like you from Canton, Michigan, end up at the Naval Academy?
Yeah, great question to start with. I had no choice is kind of the funny answer, and
you were running from the law. Is that what you're suggesting?
Fortunately, not. Not that I was the best high school performer. I got my fair share of trouble, but I also paid attention to grades, played soccer, ran track. National Honor Society, etc. Now, the almost comedic part of the story that comes full circle at the end is my parents did actually dig up the letter of rejection that I got from the University of Michigan.
Oh, there you go.
So as a senior in high school, I did not get accepted to the university where I now work. But I did still go through the process for the Naval Academy. Talked with the soccer coach, and it was an alternate to the military academy. My dad had grown up in upstate New York, so during a family trip out there one summer in high school, we visited there. And short story is, it didn't appeal to me. But then my dad, who is a Navy veteran himself, I should point out, served from 71 to 78. USS Incheon, among other things, back when it was an LPH. He was like, hey, if you're interested in the military academy, there's this other one down in Annapolis, the Naval Academy, you should check that out. And, he grows a little bit taller as he says it, because he's a veteran himself. So I said, sure, I'll check that out. And of course, it was great. You go and you visit the academy. It's beautiful. The architecture, the structure, you're right there on the bay, everything that we Navy folks like. And so I continued to pursue it and everything involved in that with, letters from senators at the time, and was ultimately accepted because it was the only place I actually got accepted.
Well, it was really
belief structure.
Yeah, you had a really narrow focus of what you wanted to do, and that obviously made all the difference. Don't let him kid you, folks. He's got a hell of a resume academically. His bachelor's is from the Naval Academy in Systems Engineering. He has a master's in engineering management from MIT. He has a naval engineering degree from MIT, and I think your PhD in design engineering is also from MIT. So we're going to kind of not hold all of those degrees against you, because you got all this great experience. Tell us about your experience in the Navy a little bit.
Yeah, so starting to pull the thread all the way through a little bit, I have always been interested in engineering. And so part of the decision was that Annapolis is known, the Naval Academy is known to have good engineering. And so while I was there, performed well enough that I was given an option to become an engineering duty officer. The first part of what that community likes is we want to make sure, as we repair, acquire, and do all the things that the engineering duty community does with ships, we want to have served on ships. So we know what it's like for the sailors and officers that are out in harm's way months at a time. So started off on DDG 63, USS Steedham out of San Diego. I was the communications officer, but got fully qualified on the ship for, topside driving the ship, officer of the watch, officer of the deck, everything entailed with that, and earned my surface warfare pin on that ship under a slew of great leaders from Dave Moline to Charlie Williams and others before I transferred to the engineering community. So now instead of operating DDGs, now I was repairing them. So I went immediately to a qualification tour at the Southwest Regional Maintenance Center, which is the hub of maintenance, repair, and modernization for the Pacific Fleet there, most of the Pacific Fleet, for the combatant fleet and amphibious fleet there in San Diego, and did some repairs on LHDs, and most notably had a really unfortunate and cool project where the main reduction gear on USS Halsey, DDG 97, it blew up for, just to shorten what actually happens. But main reduction gear severely damaged, so we have to perform open heart surgery, right, on a ship, right? We got to take out the guts. We got to take out the main reduction gear, the thing that takes power from the engines and puts it down the shaft, right? It's like the transmission of the ship. So we had to take out this 12 foot by 14 foot by 16 foot, 60-ton thing out of the middle of the ship and put in a brand new one, and then align it and get the ship back operational again. So just a really cool experience to kind of like take a ship apart and put it back together over the course of 7 months with that project.
Wow.
Yeah, just fantastic. Crawling around, diving in the bilges, looking at alignments, shaft alignment, gear bluing and teeth contact, and just learning all this cool engineering stuff and what really makes a ship literally go, right, and sail.
Now, are you in the West Coast at this point or the East Coast?
Correct. Still, this was in San Diego still.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Great question.
And let me back you up, because I think I shortchanged you. How many total years did you have in active duty Navy?
21 years total.
Okay, yeah. 21 years active duty. And then these other assignments that I mentioned in the office of the CNO, that's after active duty?
No.
That's part of the active duty. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got
Yes,
it.
sir.
Got it.
Yes.
And what kept driving you to not only pick up the master's but the PhD, and kind of, these are great opportunities that the Navy was presenting, and you took advantage of it, sounds like.
For the most part, slightly different, but yeah, the nuance difference. So for the master's degree, right after that repair tour, that's when I went to MIT the first time to earn the 2 master's degrees. As part of the engineering duty community, we want everyone, right? We are the technical leaders of the Navy. And so we need to make sure that we have good technical chops. And so everyone in the EDO community is required, as part of their qualification, to get a technical master's degree. And we have about 10 billets per year at MIT as one potential option to get that technical master's degree. So I, similar to the Naval Academy, I applied and I crossed my fingers and I hold my breath. And luckily, I was fortunate to be one of the ones accepted into the cohort that started in 2008 with a bunch of other great folks that are now, many of them are still in the Navy. The operations officer at Puget Sound Naval Shipyard was one of my classmates. Somebody running the dive locker for NAVSEA was another one of my classmates. Someone running Norfolk Naval Shipyard, another one. So just an incredible wardroom, incredible group of people that are also now still doing great things, still in uniform. So the EDO community required me to get those first 2 degrees. In between, right, sort of a little bit of a fast forward. Then I went and worked on DDG 1000, right? So I started on that ship when she was pieces and parts all around the shipyard up in Bath, Maine, and helped assemble her and resolve technical issues there, and got her to float off at least before I left that tour. And it was about a year or 2 before she left BIW on sort of the maiden voyage and the trials. After that, I went to NASCO, so back to the West Coast to be the supervisor of shipbuilding representative down there. Basically, the government oversight for the shipyard, who was building the expeditionary staging bases for us. So I accepted delivery of the USNS Chesty Puller, right? Or excuse me, Lewis B. Puller. We all know him as Chesty.
Yeah.
Hoorah, right?
Right.
But yeah, so USS Lewis B. Puller. So first ship of a class, but similar to that repair tour. Back crawling the ship with the contractor, with NASCO, with the folks working for me, looking at quality, looking at cost, making sure that the government, that the Navy is getting the product that we want out of those ships. And just a fantastic experience working through some of the issues with, drainage and AFFF for firefighting and some of these new systems for these types of ships.
Well, we probably could do a whole nother segment about the berthing quarters on ship and the relationship between real sleep and what's needed on you get on a Navy ship. We've talked to Dr. Cordell before on this issue. It's a real issue for Navy folks. But what I want to move forward on before we chew up a lot of time again is you've had that shipbuilding experience. And as we hear about the country's national security needs for a more robust Navy and that we're not keeping up with shipbuilding from places like Korea and certainly our adversaries in China, is that really a concern in the upper echelons of the Navy? And how do we attack it?
It is. So from the last two experiences I had, where I was the deputy ship design manager and where I was on CNO staff, I was the future surface requirements officer. So helping to set requirements for future frigates and unmanned vehicles and future destroyers and everything that's sort of 5, 10, 15, 40 years out there. We do understand. One way we can think about an issue sometimes is that quantity is its own quality, right? Meaning that right now, the U.S. Navy knows we have better ships, right? We have the best ships in the world, and we know we can be better. And we know China has more ships. What we don't want is that they have more ships and better ships. And so knowing that we have better ships, we know we want more ships so that equation never heads in that direction. Right. So it is, we know it is important. And what we like is to hear that Congress is talking about it. The president is talking about it. The Navy is talking about it. Industry is talking about it. It is bipartisan, bicameral. Everybody agrees. And everybody's speaking along the lines that, and it's not just military vessels. Part of the value chain for Japan and Korea and China is that they have a very robust commercial shipbuilding business as well that aids them being good at their military side of the business. So we understand we want to do the same, create a rising tide through the whole industry, both commercial and military. And so part of the language that we're trying to get leaders to start using is what we call the fourth coast, because we have the East Coast, we have the West Coast, we have the Gulf Coast, and then we have the Michigan coast, the Great Lake coast, right? So we have a lot of coast here that we can use where we can have shipyards. We have large bodies of water that are protected where we can run experiments and figure some of this stuff out before sending it out on the high seas. And so we're trying to create again, a language about the fourth coast here in the Great Lakes, where there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of skilled workers, a lot of talent in both manufacturing and engineering. And through that awareness, bring some of that business here to help the nation do what we need to do.
Yeah, this is Congress has to fund all this largely, except, if you're talking on the commercial side. But this is a long-term problem. It takes both shipbuilding, yards, and facilities, but it also requires the right type of people. And I think that's where I want to go next is talk about your view, because you've sat at the top of this thing looking down, about what we should be doing in terms of getting more people interested in shipbuilding, the maritime industry as a career.
Great question.
Yeah, I mean, nobody thinks about, at least in the Midwest, necessarily about a maritime shipbuilding career, being in the trades, and there's a lot of trades that have to be involved here. You're working on part of that pipeline at engineering schools, but part of that pipeline is not straight up PhDs, is it? It's really the trades.
A little bit of yes to all. So actually, yeah, you started sparking some neurons. So thank you for that. I think what the largest problem we have in terms of getting folks into these trades and disciplines is simply awareness. So part of it for the Midwest, for the state of Michigan, for the Great Lake region is we have great manufacturers, from the auto industry to others. We know how to build stuff here. We did it in World War II. We haven't forgotten that, right? We still know how to do that here. But part of what I've discovered in the 2 years here in Ann Arbor is people just aren't aware. We call it sea blindness. Many people aren't aware of the maritime trades, and that 70% of the world is ocean. 80% of the population of the world lives within 100 miles of a coast. 90% of international trade goes by water, and like over 95% of data goes in undersea cables, right? It's all happening in the background that we in the sea services are kind of running the world, but we're just letting it happen. We're just moving goods and making things happen. And it doesn't really hit the news until a ship goes aground in the Suez Canal and brings everything to a halt. And then, Amazon deliveries don't get here on
right.
time.
Now we care. Now we care. Yeah.
Right. And so I found through awareness and awareness of the opportunity. Right. So here in the College of Engineering, any I'll say average high school senior gets accepted here to the College of Engineering. They already know, well, there's aeronautical engineering, there's civil engineering, there's mechanical engineering, chemical engineering. Nobody really knows that there is this thing called naval engineering that's its own discipline, that has its own specialties, that does this really cool thing, build the ships that make the world go round and move 90% of the goods that we look at in our houses every day. And so just giving them that awareness, and that there's opportunity, there are jobs, and actually well-paying jobs that contribute to that. Like people convert because it's fun, right? These ships, right? If you like complication and complexity, right? I mean, it's a floating city. It moves. It's got sanitation. It's got recreation. It's got mission equipment, right? That like firefighting, police, everything that you need ashore, like put it on a ship and make it move around the world, right? It's fun. To me, at least, the complexity is fun.
Well, it certainly is. It is a complex system. The bigger they are, the more complex they are. And you're a guy who's been thinking about, well, what's this going to look like 15 years from now or 20 years from now?
Right.
The speed of innovation on weapon systems and electronic systems and propulsion systems is really quite amazing. And I would think that's where a lot of the excitement that maybe people don't understand is. There's all this technology happening.
Correct. And along those lines, and along the lines of Midwest sort of, Fourth Coast versus East Coast, West Coast, Gulf Coast, something else we need to realize, 70% of the value of a ship is created outside the shipyard. So it would be great to have shipyards here and build ships in Fincantieri, right up, at our sort of northern border there with or I guess the southern border of the northern peninsula, right there with Wisconsin, right? So they build frigates up there, and that's great. And having shipyards is great, but 70% of the value doesn't need to be at a shipyard, right? We can build pieces and parts. We can build pumps. We can build skids. We can build pipes and other things here in the Midwest to go to shipyards and help them be more efficient and effective at final assembly, so to speak. So just incredible opportunity in that sense as well here in the Midwest to really add value into the supply chain for these things, whether or not the shipyard is actually here. And so incredible opportunity for the trades, incredible opportunity for engineers. And I think just some of that awareness of being able to get into this business and industry is something that will help tremendously.
Yeah, real interesting. I would never have guessed that percentage, 70% of the values from stuff built outside the shipyard. That's a very interesting way to think about it. Let me switch gears to something else that you mentioned. You mentioned unmanned vehicles, which, again, in the role of thinking about the future and ship requirements, this is, and we see, drones in the air and fighting in Ukraine in ways we never thought. What's the future of unmanned vehicles that the Navy might use?
So there was, I think that we recognize that is an important piece of the capability that we need to build in our future fleet. That there are some jobs and some missions that are inherently conducted by humans, especially when you get to a point where you're pressing a button where something launches and goes somewhere, right? But there are other levels of automation, levels of autonomy for steering, for navigation, for machinery operation, where there are some incredible benefits that unmanned vessels or autonomy bring for the United States Navy, right? There are missions where maybe it's more important, there are missions where the value of human life, the risk to human life is such that we might want to consider an unmanned vessel for that particular entire mission set, incredibly dangerous, incredibly dirty type missions. And so we're looking into those capabilities as well as to augment the manned fleet efficiently with instead of having to build a DDG every time we want more missiles floating out on the water, because a DDG inherently it comes with certain fuel costs just to sail around, with certain personnel costs just to sail around. And so if we can start changing the economies of operations, that has its own benefit as well. So we do see the value in many dimensions for unmanned vessels, for autonomy, and there's a room for a lot of experimentation and technology development and integration to realize those mission capabilities for the Navy.
Well, and that leads to a whole nother area of you have to be aware of this to think about this as a career. Very interesting where that all is going to go, and it's going to require a whole different set of engineers and tradesmen and fabricators, and none of that really has to be done in a shipyard, right? Maybe testing has to be in the water somewhere, but there's if you're the type of person interested in those sort of, I guess, innovations, AI is going to come into that, all that. There's a lot of work for folks who aren't going to be welders and shipbuilders in the traditional sense, I would think.
Yes. And speaking of, opportunities for people, right? For citizens and young kids here in Michigan, As I was leaving the Navy about 2 years ago, they were standing up a new rating for robotics. So they were standing up a rating where your career, your trajectory as an enlisted person in robotics, right? Essentially, you are operating and repairing these unmanned vessels, right? So they're creating the rating for, like drone operators and drone repairers,
Sure.
But for like 100, 200 foot long, ships. So there are opportunities even on that side of things as well. If someone might be interested in that. So, you envision, the Air Force folks there in Colorado with a joystick,
Yep.
flying UAVs somewhere, right? There is a similar construct starting to develop for the U.S. Navy, where we're working through the concepts of operations and how do we maintain command and control of these unmanned vessels, and some of it involves this robotics rating that we're standing up. So some incredible opportunities both in and out of uniform, I would say.
Yeah, again, we're just trying to make people aware this isn't your grandfather's Navy. Be thinking about these exciting areas, which maybe, ring true for you and say, hey, I can have a really cool career doing some fascinating stuff there. As we come out of time a little bit, but if you'll stick with me, I wanted to talk about, or have you talk about, if you will, you've been now a professor at the College of Engineering, the Naval Architecture and Marine department there. What projects are you working on? What moved you as you retired from active duty and got into teaching? What's the exciting projects that you're working on?
Yeah, great question, and thank you. Because part of my passion for probably the last 6 or 7 years is understanding, right? I have gained this understanding of the problem we're up against, and creating more ships, better ships, having better designs, designing for the fact that we'll deliver a ship this year that's going to be operating for the next 40 years. And all I can do is guarantee you that what we use the ship delivered today for 40 years from now is going to be different, and potentially substantially different.
Right, yeah.
So how do we account for that now? So even while I was in uniform, while I was at OpNav, recognizing some of this and accounting for it, I created a program called Collect that was internal workforce development to train the engineers and designers already in the Navy to get better at doing ship designs by doing ship designs. That's the best way. That's how we learn. You have to learn by doing for these large, complex things. So what I have stood up here at the University of Michigan is a similar program, a pipeline for graduate students, 2-year program for American students of any STEM background to learn to be naval engineers and learn by doing. So we're going to have them conducting projects, conducting research, attending courses, briefing senior Navy leaders. We have a former Secretary of the Navy on staff, on faculty with us that he's going to red team them, and they're going to have to brief him on their thoughts and ideas and designs, and then go brief senior Navy leaders as well. So we're trying to develop the future civilian Navy engineering leaders here at the University of Michigan with myself as a veteran. We also have on faculty Professor Tim McCoy, who's a Navy veteran himself as well, former Secretary of the Navy, and a few other faculty that are just motivated and awesome and want to do the right thing for the Navy and for the nation as well. So we're going to start cranking out some great naval engineers to feed into this ecosystem to our shipyards, our repair yards, our design agents, and everyone, so that we have good, solid knowledge and we continue to build better ships, better Navy ships than the rest of the world. So thanks again for that question.
Great project, great effort. You have to have the people before you can get the hard assets built and deployed. So this is kind of where it starts. I really want to thank Navy veteran Dr. Jonathan Page for his time today, giving us some insight into the future of maritime building and the shipyard industry. There's a lot more we could talk about, Jonathan, but I appreciate the time that you've given us today.
I appreciate your time as well, Jim. Happy to talk again anytime you want to. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I want to thank everybody for listening to Veterans Radio today. I am Jim Fausone. It's been a pleasure to be your host. I'm a veterans disability lawyer at Legal Help for Veterans, and you can reach us at 800-693-4800 or legalhelpforveterans.com on the web. You can follow Veterans Radio on Facebook and listen to its podcasts and internet radio shows
by visiting us at veteransradio.org. That's veteransradio.org. We again want to thank our national sponsors, the National Veterans Business Development Council, nvbdc.org, Legal Help for Veterans, a veterans disability law firm with a national practice before the VA, can help you on your claims and your appeals. It can be reached at legalhelpforveterans.com or 1-800-693-4800. And PuroClean, a leader in property emergency services. It's the paramedics of property damage, providing water damage remediation, flood water removal, fire and smoke damage remediation, mold and biohazard cleanups. You can reach them at puroclean.com or 800-775-7876. We also want to thank our local sponsors. This would include the Charles S. Kettles chapter of the Vietnam Veterans of America, that's chapter 310, VFW Graf O'Hara Post 423, the American Legion Irwin Preston Post 46 in Ann Arbor as well, the VA Ann Arbor Healthcare System, and certainly the National Vietnam Veterans of America Association. You can be a sponsor by going to veteransradio.org, clicking on the About Us and our sponsors, and help us out. Keep this program alive for the 21 and 22 years. Keep us going for another 20. Thank you.